Online Travel Talks, and today I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to Linzi Boyd, who is the founder of One Earth, and she's also a published author. She's a marketing guru, a business guru, and I'm so delighted you're here actually, Linzi. We want to hear all about what you know in terms of marketing, business and everything else.
Oh, thanks for having me today. I'm very proud to come onto your podcast because we've known each other for such a long time now. And obviously you've been through my business school and the programs and what have you. So it's a delight to come on and spend time with your audience.
Brilliant. Well, Linzi, why don't we start with just giving us a little bit of a background about yourself and then about your business.
I have been working in building businesses since the age of 18, actually. I left school at a very young age of 15 and I started in the world of retail. And I sold that company when I was 21 and I set my second company up in manufacturing, footwear manufacturing. And I learned on the job all about distribution. We set up 7 very large distribution channels around the world. And I then had my shoes in the design museum as design classics and sold the company to Caterpillar when I was 24. Wow. So at a young age, I learned how to build businesses that were brand led rather than sales led. And then when my friends were going to university at the age of, 24 and so forth, they were still in university. I was on my 3rd business. And I spent 17 years building, renovating and refreshing some of the most famous brands on the high street and also some of the most famous people in the world, which moved me on to my 4th business 11 years ago, which is the one I'm in today called One Earth.
Wow, brilliant. So let's hear a little bit about One Earth.
Well, One Earth was started because I had been building businesses for my entire career, actually. And 11 years ago, I was fed up. I didn't want to build businesses anymore just around commercial gain. I wanted to shift the world into a new era, as I describe it, through the eyes of brands to help businesses really build a brand, build a business to impact change in the world. And I felt that we could now shift, different industry sectors, travel, health, finance, retail, education, and so forth, by really helping individual people to understand how to switch their business model over from 20th century thinking to 21st century thinking. And rather than just think about commercial gain and sales, how did they drive a brand-led, purpose-led business into the market and really lead with purpose and impact to shift their business, their industry, sometimes society, and even the world.
Wow.
So, as you know, we've had about 5,500 businesses go through our schools globally, all different sizes, from very, very small companies, one-man bands, all the way through to, established companies. And they're either building their business, renovating their business, or refreshing their business.
Wow. So, it's quite hard to sort of not think about commercials, particularly when you've been through something as brutal as a pandemic that no one's ever had experience of running a business through. And we've all had to sort of cope in all many ways. And I think a lot of the people that will be watching today, especially if they're, running businesses in a managerial position, trying to motivate staff, or whether it is their own business, really now need to drive out of the pandemic, especially as travel and tourism starts to recover, which it looks, cross fingers, it looks like we're just beginning to see good green shoots of that. So what sort of advice would you give where commercials are important, but same with really making the most of the opportunities that are coming our way through the recovery?
Well, interestingly, when the pandemic hit, we had a couple of thousand businesses come around us in about 10 days. Gosh. And it was incredible. Like a lot of our industry was on their knees. Many industry sectors acknowledging travel, tourism and hospitality was probably one of the worst, I have to say.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had businesses in Australia that dropped 23 million in revenue overnight to nothing. And it was awful. And we took these businesses through the last 18 months. And in the early days, we said to them, there's an interesting article I did for the Daily Mail, the financial money section. If they Google me, they can see it online. And interestingly, I said, stop selling and lead with the human response. Now, can you imagine in the first few months telling businesses that that have literally dropped to nothing overnight to stop selling? And what happened was, when these businesses started to lead with their brand, not only their business brand, but actually the people brands of the organization, they started to put their arms around the community and actually lead with the human response of the person. What happened was that communities started to come in to those businesses. And when they were ready to start engaging again in a sales conversation, these communities were around them because they hadn't in those early days sold to them hard. They'd actually put their arms around them and listened to what the community needed.
Yes, I think reflecting in the travel industry, those early days of people having to cancel holidays, trying to get refunds, and phones ringing off the hook, or certain emails loading into systems and crashing them, while people were trying to sort out all the information of people, airlines grounding and landing, and cruise ships. I mean, it's been such a difficult time. You couldn't even have imagined that could ever have happened before 2019. So yeah, I can see what you mean. So those companies that really treated their customers as well as they could, trying to do the best for them. I know a lot of suppliers were also trying to stay alive. And I know lots of entities got involved, like ABTA, to try and support how to help. So yes, I think good supplier relationships along with good customer relationships in coming out of the pandemic is going to be the thing. And I've just recently done a vodcast with a tour operator who said that all her existing clients were coming back to rebook their holidays. And so I guess that's a good example of good customer service through what has been the most awful time.
Interestingly, that was one of the key trends that actually went through the whole of the pandemic. So people started to think about their clients not only as a client anymore, but actually it moved into a space of community, and people started to actually build communities. I worked with a big real estate firm. They had over 500 people working with them, and we did a large webinar series. We helped them to run that, but then also drive their community into an online community platform and start engaging with them in a different way. So rather than just selling them a house, which was what they would have done, they actually started having conversations with them about where things were moving to, where the world was moving to, how did that affect people, what was the new way of living, what was the new way of working, and people felt like they were heard. They felt like that the company was listening to them for the first time, and that these communities, this company ended up having about 6,000 people in their community, that they were never speaking to before. They were just selling them a house. So that trend of listening, putting your arms around the community, engaging with them, we talk about that being the who era, and that is around the emotional connection with your customer and no longer just selling to them at every point. And I'm a trend specialist, so I've been speaking about the who era for a number of years now, and we are heavily in that era. So if you can now connect with your customer on an emotional response, rather than just on here, buy my product and or benefit, then you will engage your customer a lot more, because the customer will turn around and go, oh my gosh, you know me. How do you know me so well? And they will want to engage with you more. The second
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, how would you apply that to the travel industry? Do you think, so it's talking about holidays in a different way? So talking about the result of relaxation, of adventure, or, I mean, what sort of tips would you give in that way?
That's a brilliant question. So typically most of the market, and I would say 87% of the market, is selling the products and or the benefits of the product. So I have a holiday, this holiday is fantastic, you can go here, you can go there, you know, it's adventurous, it's going to do all this for you. And what I say to people is, go and look on other people's websites, have a look on their social media, have a look in their collateral, see what they're saying and selling, and you will see that a lot of the market are actually saying the same thing and showing up in the same way. And we talk about that being a push business model. That means that because of that and where the market is, people often come to me and say, I can't be seen, I'm having to spend a lot of money on marketing or advertising or Google ads or clickables, and it's costing these firms a lot of money just to even be benchmark neutral and actually be seen in the market, never mind sell anything.
Yeah.
So we teach businesses to move from a push business model, which is just selling the products and the benefits, to move into a space of pull. And the pull...
I was going to say, so would one suggestion to that be perhaps getting some of your customers that have been on their holidays to perhaps do a short video about how much they enjoyed it, who they were, what they liked, what they went on. So allow the customers that are already going to say the experience was a really good one, assuming obviously that it was. Is that what you're sort of saying? Is it
yeah, nearly. So if I took that a step, if I took that a step further, just one step further, if you imagine, so I've got an existing travel agency or somebody in the travel sector, and they are traditionally selling what they would always sell, the products and benefits. If I now move them into a space of thinking about what's their purpose, what do they stand for, what do they want to be known for, how do they want to show up in the world? And then they think about what's their difference, what's the asset, what sits inside their business that's unique, that's very different from all the other industry people that are out there. Now, if you connect what that value is with their purpose, and then you think about who the customer is and emotionally connecting with them. So you might go, the women's sector, just thinking of an example, and you know, you have all families, you have a lot of families that are coming out the pandemic and the recession, and they're tired, you know, and people are now looking for something different. So you speak from an emotional standpoint around, you know, reshaping the future of adventure. What does it look like to be adventurous? We all came out of the pandemic and we were tired. We've only been able to dream about what adventure would mean for us. How could we now look at adventure in a different way? Could we now go and connect with the giraffes? Could we now go and see Mickey Mouse? Could we now? How would that look for the families? Let's reshape the future of adventure together.
Wow.
So you're
sounds good.
And then what you're doing is you're bringing the families in, and rather than the families kind of going, oh, I had a great time, you could do a whole kind of YouTube TV channel type thing that has videos, but all about adventure. So it's like moments or memories. So each family might talk about a moment that they never thought was possible. I saw Mickey Mouse for the first time. I rode an elephant for the first time. I managed to put my feet in the sea, and I haven't done that in 3.5 years. So, and then it's all about connecting adventures.
Yes.
Now you've got something emotional that connects with the human response, rather than going, come and sell my adventure holiday. But you're still talking about a similar thing, but it connects with your purpose of really what you care about. And if you are all about being adventurous, and that's what your purpose and DNA is, then that would drive into everything you do.
Wow, that's really good. I mean, the industry at the moment is also very interested in sustainability more than I think they've ever been.
Hugely.
So I'm sure a lot could be tied into those values, as you say. But I understand that you help companies work out those values and where their assets are, and kind of work at where they're good at, and, you know, perhaps points that they can need to reflect on and maybe work more on. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it links actually with the comment that you just made about the industry moving into being more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we've been building what I would describe ethical business models, purpose-led business models for, gosh, since my schools began, you know, and we are heavily looking at different industry sectors. So we've been massively working with the travel tourism sector during the pandemic. We've had about 500 people now come through that sector, but we're also working with the oceans, and we've got one called One Oceans. They're looking at how do you put sustainability into different industries. So oceans with travel, oceans with manufacturing, oceans with education, and so forth. And when we look at a business, what we're thinking about is the most important thing that you need to do when you come out of a recession and a pandemic is understand, what am I sat with today with my business model? So understanding now, where are the gaps in my business? And we talk about 5 layers of your business. So the brand, and that's your business brand and your people brands. And I'm not talking about branding, so not the logo, the look and feel, the visual tone, that comes after, but the brand being your asset. What's the value that sits there? And how do you build that out and link that with the emotional connection of the customer that I just mentioned, the purpose of why you're in business at the moment? And then really, what is this asset value that will increase the sales, the awareness, and the valuation of your company? But then more importantly, how do you then understand where the gaps are in your product? You know, you were selling a product pre-pandemic and the markets have changed. So understanding what the trends are now, what the market need is. There's been a huge trend, conscious consumption, that has massively sped up during the pandemic and the recession. People are now consciously consuming in a way that they have never done before. How do you apply that to your business model? How do you apply that to whether it's a tangible product that you're selling and or an intangible product, an information product, an education product, a quiz that can audit somebody's business? And then think about what your routes to market are now. So where the gaps are in the channel, how you are selling things, and think about different routes to market. So can your culture be a route to market? The people in your organization, how do they build their profiles in a different way to attract the market in, so that you're driving sales in the door, but you're not just selling to people? And then how do you campaign differently? So people have been used to doing sales-led campaigning. Obviously, I'm going to sell my product and benefit in a Google clickable advert, and hopefully somebody will see it. Yeah. How do I now transition into what we describe brand-led campaigning? So really understanding to connect that to your purpose, the story, the emotional connection. And then how do you connect that with your people? So how do you get them campaigning with you and open up the market? And if you understand that and transition your business to what we describe 21st century business model, you will start to pull the market in and really attract the market. And what we say to people, it actually costs you a lot less money to do a pull business model strategy than a push business model that you're having to compete with the rest of the market.
Wow. So really, this is what you're really talking about, is working on the business. And of course, when we're frantically now trying to make the most of the upsurge in demand for travel again, sometimes we think, oh gosh, but you know, it's an important thing to do and to take time for. And what strikes me is the travel industry, they love to get together. They love a glass of wine. I think eventually what would be brilliant is if we could organise that somewhere in a nice location, nice and sunny, will come and see you, spend a few days with you, relaxing, enjoying, thinking about our businesses.
Joyous.
And emerging with real motivation. But in the meantime, feet on the ground. I know we're not quite at that stage yet, but you and I can cook it up. We'll work something out.
We can open up a virtual classroom though and do our backgrounds. One of the things we have been doing.
That's not part of the time.
No, it's not. But it would get people going, and then, you know, if we can set up a beautiful retreat, if there's anybody that would like to do that with us, we are more than welcome to fly in, and everybody can fly into the same destination.
That's it, exactly. Well, we can work towards that. In the meantime, I understand you do have a little gift for people watching, kindly watching this podcast and hearing all about Linzi, and wants to sort of at least make a start on thinking about their business and seeing if there's some simple ideas that can come through that will help shape and really help you make the most of the recovery. And so what we're going to do, Linzi, do you want to explain how that works? Yeah.
Yes. So we, as you know, as I've said, we've been building and scaling businesses for many, many years. And when I taught for the London Mayor's office, I used to do, which is where I met you.
It was.
Do you remember?
Yes.
We did what we described as find your formula. And we came in and spent a day with you and audited the businesses in the room and understood where the gaps were and how you were going to trade internationally. And what we did was we designed that into an online quiz, a tool, and we are offering this as our gift to your audience, because I understand we did a project called Help 100 during the pandemic, and you know, really the travel tourism industry and sector got smashed up probably the most, I think, out of everybody. So. And what we would like to do is get people to audit their businesses. It is a high level quiz that it'll take you about 10 minutes to do. And we're going to offer that as a gift. We will provide a code. It will probably be OTT rebuild.
Yeah, sounds a good code to me. Okay.
And people can come onto that. They can come and audit themselves, and then I will run you a 1-hour masterclass at the end, so people can come in with their results and they can meet me and they can talk about what they've come up with with their gaps of their business and where they are with their business.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful offering. Thank you so much. The industry needs all the help it can get to make the most of this recovery. And I'd like to thank you so much for your time today, Linzi, and telling us your pearls of wisdom. You truly are a fantastic specialist in marketing and business. And, you know, you've been there and got the T-shirt. And so it's great to hear from you. And I'm sure a lot of you will get a lot out of it. Please do the quiz. So you can't sort of talk about business and marketing in 15-20 minutes and be able to sort of understand it all. So you've got to reflect on your own business, and that takes a bit of time, but it's time worth spending. So thank you, Linzi, and thank you to everyone who's been watching this podcast, Online Travel Talks, today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.